Hello, welcome back to a new video. So recently I've been playing the brand new Starfield by Bethesda Games, and as an avid fan of Bethesda games and RPG games in general, I knew I just had to play this game. Unfortunately, so far it's been kind of bland, boring, and uninspired. The game has had massive hype, and after playing it for almost all day now, I don't really feel like the game has lived up to the hype, and here's why. So the game has been marketed as this massive open world game set across the galaxies and the stars, and there's supposed to be thousands of different planets that you can visit, and all these different cities and establishments you can roam around, and all these different characters with their own storylines and plot lines that you can get involved with. And that sounds amazing and everything, but I don't feel like the final game delivers on what was promised. So it's kind of hard to enjoy the game fully right now because of the performance issues, and maybe that's because the game only just came out and there's still glitches to fix and bugs to squash, and there should be patches coming soon to fix these performance issues, but it's still very frustrating when you've paid a lot of money for the premium edition so you can play early, and the game just feels very janky. A lot of the time the frame rates in the game is just really bad, and I don't understand why. I currently have the settings all set to low because if I set the graphics any higher than low, then my system can't really handle this game, and it should be able to handle it because I've got a pretty powerful gaming laptop, 17-inch Razer Blade Pro gaming laptop with an RTX 3060 and a Core i7 processor, and I've been able to play basically all games recently on Ultra. But for some reason my system really struggles to run this game very smoothly. Most of the time I can maintain 30 to 40 FPS, but then sometimes it just randomly drops down to like 10 FPS, and it takes a while until it sorts itself out and gets back up to about 30 FPS. This game kind of feels like a mixture of No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk 2077. In No Man's Sky you had a spaceship and you had all of these planets, infinite amount of procedurally generated planets that you could visit, and you could fly around in space and stuff like that. But the good thing about No Man's Sky was there was basically no loading screens ever. You could just hop into a spaceship, launch off into the sky, and then launch off into space, and then just activate your hyperdrive and then visit other planets. And most of the time there was never any loading screens, but in Starfield there's so many loading screens. So for example, in Starfield, if you want to hop into your ship and then fly off to a different planet or a different galaxy, it takes so long. Look how many loading screens there are. First, there's a loading screen to get into your ship, and then you've got to then walk over to the pilot seat, and then there's going to be like a little animation of him getting in the seats and a little computer sliding forwards. There's so many of these little animations which take up a couple seconds, but it really feels like it's slowing down everything. And then you've got another little animation or loading screen of your ship taking off.
Starships fly there like comets.
When you finally get into space, sometimes there's enemy spaceships in the area, which prevents you from hyper jumping out of the area. You get stuck in combat, and then you get blown up and destroyed. And then you reload the game, you have to watch all the little cutscenes and a loading screen to get back into space all over again. And then to get to the planet you want to, you have to quickly open the map, and then kind of zoom out on the map, find the planet you want to go to, plot the course, jump into hyperspace, watch another little animation or cutscene of the ship going into hyperspace, and then you arrive there, then you have to land, and there's another 2 loading screens. It just takes so long to get around in this game. It makes the whole process of just jumping into your ship and flying around and exploring new planets really annoying and really tedious, and I didn't feel like this when I was playing No Man's Sky. In No Man's Sky it felt so seamless, and I felt like I could just jump into my ship and just shoot off into the stars and just find a planet, aim towards it, activate my hyper engines and just go straight for it, enter its atmosphere and land on the planet, all without seeing a single loading screen, maybe just one loading screen for the hyper jump. Also, entering a lot of buildings in the game, you have to go through a loading screen just to enter some building. There's just way too many loading screens, and I don't understand why this game has to have so many loading screens when so many open world games barely have any loading screens at all. The game's open world kind of city hub areas look very bland and empty compared to games like Cyberpunk 2077, which I feel like is quite similar to this game. But Cyberpunk 2077 city was so cool. Night City had so many things going on, and it looks so interesting, so futuristic and cool. But in Starfield, the main kind of futuristic city hub area looks so dull and bland, and there's barely anything happening, just a lot of NPCs randomly walking around. The game's visuals just don't really blow me away, and I know I'm playing the game on low graphics, but even with the graphics cranked up to high, I already notice much difference. Okay, the reflections and textures look a bit better, but the overall design of the visual appearance of the game and the levels just look kind of lacking in luster. The planets all look really dull and barren as well, and I know they have hundreds or even thousands of planets and they're randomly generated and it's impossible to make them all look really cool, but I don't really care about exploring thousands of planets when they will look boring and dull like this. No Man's Sky had the same problem as well. The game also has some strange glitches with the ragdoll physics, like bodies getting stuck in the air or bodies just getting stuck in the wall and then flipping out. I guess it's kind of funny, but it's also very janky. It is kind of disappointing to see so much jank in what is supposed to be a AAA game that they've been working on for, 15 years, or nearly 20 years. To be able to play the game early access, it was very expensive. I paid nearly $200. It was £100 plus £31 for the premium upgrade, which is about $189. So when I'm spending that much money, I would expect the game to be quality. As for the combat of the game, it doesn't feel great, to be honest. When it's smooth, it feels okay, but most of the time the frame rate is not super smooth. It doesn't feel buttery smooth like other games like Cyberpunk 2077 does. And I just feel like the enemy AI and the shooting action and the movements, the way it feels, just feels kind of janky. The Bethesda engine is kind of famous for being a bit janky, and I do see that they've upgraded it since their previous game, Fallout 4, but it still seems like they can't get rid of the jankiness. The engine that's used in Cyberpunk 27 is just so much better and felt so much better when jumping around and shooting, and the movements in Cyberpunk 2077 were so much better as well, where you could slide around and jump and do like a double jump and spin around and do all these crazy melee attacks and just chop up enemies limb by limb. There's no gore like that in this game. I know I keep comparing this game to Cyberpunk 2077, and maybe a lot of people think they're two completely different games, but I swear when I'm doing these kind of combat missions where I'm in an enemy base and I can either be stealthy or just go out guns blazing or hack into computer systems, I feel like it's very similar to Cyberpunk 2077, but in like a much more dull and bland way. For example, there's melee weapons in this game like an axe or a pick, but it doesn't feel anywhere as cool as the katanas or the massive kind of bladed weapons in Cyberpunk. You can't chop your enemies up into pieces, and there's no cybernetic implants from what I've seen so far. You can't really hack into the mainframe, like hack into the enemies' heads and blow them up or make them do stuff. I kind of miss the VAT system from Fallout where you could stop time and target specific limbs. I wish they brought that back. And I really don't like the space combat. The space combat just feels kind of boring. You just kind of aim your mouse, your cursor at a circle to match the other circle, so you get a lock on, and then you kind of like fly past the enemy, you're flying towards each other, you fly around, then you fly back and you aim at them again. It's just very repetitive and boring. I really don't like the space combat. There does seem to be a lot to do in the game, and there's a lot of complex systems like the cooking system, the crafting system, the skill trees seem pretty complex. But as of right now, considering the fact that I've spent £130 or $189, I don't really feel like this is the amazing AAA game that I was promised. It kind of feels like a combination of No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, and a bit of Fallout 4. But honestly, I prefer Cyberpunk 2077 way more than this. Hopefully the game will get some big patches fixing the bugs and making it more of a smooth experience. But that could take weeks or months. And by the time all the fixes have come out, I might have already finished the game. So as of right now, I can't really recommend buying the game. I would give it a 6.2 out of 10. And I definitely recommend waiting 5 days until you can play it without paying extra for the early access. Like the video or let me know in the comments if you'd like to see the Sons of Virgins GTA Online return. Thanks for watching, you absolute legends. I love you.